There we go. Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Kirsten Engel Town Hall with Mi Familia Vota. Kirsten Engel is candidate for Congress for Congressional District 6, and soon we will hear more about her. First, I wanted to welcome you and thank you for joining us. We are with Mi Familia Vota, which is a community organization dedicated to growing Latino civic engagement and political power. And we are so happy today to grow that civic engagement and that power through information and connection. Todo eso se puede ver en español a través de los subtítulos. Si vean en el chat, van a ver las instrucciones para cambiar los subtítulos a español en Zoom. ¿Ok? Y ahora voy a pasar el micrófono a Raquel Terán. And now I'm going to pass the microphone to Raquel Terán, who is a longtime community organizer and leader who is from Douglas and Agua Prieta, and who has herself served in the state legislature and was the chair of the Arizona Democratic Party. We're so happy to have you here tonight, Raquel.
Gracias, Mónica. And hey, and mi familia is Mi Familia Vota. My first clipboard as I was registering people to vote was handed to me by Mi Familia Vota. And thank you for hosting this conversation. Incredible to see the work that Mi Familia Vota has done. And I'm so happy that there's a space that we can have together a dialogue with Kirsten Engel, who I love to call my friend. She was my colleague in the state legislature. And I have so much respect for her. And I was just thinking right now, she will be the woman representing the Arizona delegation. I have chills just thinking about that. You're going to carry such responsibility, Kirsten, and we have to get you through the finish line. So I'm so excited for tonight's conversation. And I'm going to read her beautiful bio because, Kirsten, you've left so much here in Arizona. You've given so much to us, and I can't wait to see what you will do in Congress. So a little bit about Ms. Engel. Senator Engel, as a child of two public school teachers, Kirsten Engel learned at an early age the importance of giving back to her community and protecting our resources for generations to come. And so as a law professor, she has specialized in environmental and public administration law and served as the Arizona State Legislator for 3 terms. And her government experience showed her firsthand how bureaucratic red tape and corporate greed affects our laws. And as a legislator, Kirsten worked across the aisle to make positive change in our state, including protecting water supply, expanding the solar industry, and fighting for criminal justice reform. Kirsten fought really, like, I saw her fight the Republicans like nobody's business, and in such a smart way. And the way that she was able to work across the aisle was unbelievable. And we all learned so much from her. So this is so real. So she has the real skills to go into Congress and take on this fight. And then when she was also at the state legislature, she really stood up for abortion access and voting rights. And we saw her in that fight. And those are the fights that we're also fighting at a federal level. So you will do tremendous work. And we have to make sure that we get you through the finish line. And once you're in Congress, support you all the way so that we can get all these policies that will make people's realities better through the finish line. You will need support then, but you need it now at this moment. So Kirsten, thank you so much for being with us this evening, and let's start the conversation. I'm going to pass it over to you so you could give your initial remarks.
I can't. Oh, there we go.
There we go.
All right, there. We're going. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Monica, for setting this up. Thank you, Senator Terán, for all that you have done. And I am just very, very honored and pleased to be on this town hall this evening to talk to all of you. And I do want to give an absolute shout out to Mi Familia Vota. Your organization has been amazing. I run into your volunteers a lot, and we know how important it is to have a voice in our politics, to make sure that people have the tools they need, they're educated about how to vote and how to make their voice matter. Not in the Arizona State House here in Arizona, and in the halls of Congress. Your voice, the voice of the Latino community, needs to be heard so that they have the political power that they deserve. So thank you again. I am running for Congress, running for Congressional District 6 here in Southern Arizona. The district we often refer to as the Gabby Giffords District, for one of our most beloved former members of Congress. It is a race that I have run for before. I ran during the midterm elections and missed winning by one of the closest margins in the United States, just a little over 1%, 5,000 votes, after being outspent 6-1. I'm running again, this time with a great deal of support from the grassroots to wonderful, really supportive and important national organizations. And I do believe this time we can finish the job that we started before. A little bit about me and my background. I came here about 20 years ago with my then infant daughter. And I came for a job. A lot of people who move to Arizona come for a job. I was very, very lucky to be hired at the University of Arizona. My background is in the environment, and I was being hired as a teacher of environmental law. So everything's great. Just so excited to be here. And, you know, that didn't end until I started to see what was happening with respect to public education in this state. My daughter in public school, me at a public university, and seeing the incredible cuts. And we also have seen those cuts to community colleges and to so many social programs that support our community. And I realized I was in a position actually that I could do something about it. And I could advocate for kids in our public schools. I could talk about the importance of clean air and clean water and health. And so I ran for the Arizona legislature, and as Raquel has mentioned, served there for just about 3 terms, you know, standing up for our values, but trying to find, you know, any opening for bipartisanship so that we could actually make progress in terms of funding education, working on our water issues, you know, working to support affordable housing in our community, and certainly, you know, addressing the issue of community safety, and which is both an issue of, you know, good safety policing, but it's also how do we make that the most safe for our communities? How do we make sure that our communities are included in community safety conversations and policies? For that 1 year, I received the award of being the best Democratic legislator in the Democratic caucus. Very proud of that. And one thing they said about me was that I was a law school professor who did her damn homework. And I bring that up now because what are we seeing in Congress? A completely dysfunctional entity, an entity that can barely pass a budget. Actually, they haven't passed a budget. They keep on passing like continuing resolutions for a few months, you know, much less, you know, pave the roads or work on helping families lower costs. So this is what I would like to get in there and do my damn homework. And I have to say, the current incumbent, my opponent last time, who holds the seat now, Juan Ciscomani, has been supporting the extremists, and it's the extremists that have been making Congress dysfunctional. You know, throwing up anti-abortion riders onto things like agricultural funding bills. This is what has just destabilized and made our Congress not a working entity where our voices are heard and we're getting policies that move our communities forward. So Representative Ciscomani, you know, he cheered the repeal of Roe versus Wade. He's been voting for national abortion restrictions. You know, he rejected the bipartisan border security immigration deal. And I'm glad that we will talk about the important issue of immigration reform that affects so many of our communities. And he has just, time after time, supported the far right that is in control of that body and has really destabilized it. So I want to get in there, Congress, you get a chance to vote your for the best person for the job every 2 years. I think that Juan Ciscomani has shown that he is not an independent voice for the people of this district, that he can't cut through that dysfunction, and that actually he is feeding that dysfunction. And that there's a lot of extremism in his background, being a leader in this entity called the Patriot Academy, which doesn't believe in the separation of church and state and teaches young kids, how to use lethal force. So I want to get in there and work on the issues that matter to our communities. And I look forward to your questions.
All right. Well, great introduction, and so glad to hear a little bit more about your background and your vision. And we do have a question that came from somebody who submitted a question as they were registering for this event, and it's around housing. I believe 1 of every 5 houses here in the state of Arizona are owned by corporations, but I mean, this is it's a pressing issue. So with the rising housing costs putting a strain on many families here in Arizona, and homelessness is a growing concern, what concrete strategies will you implement to increase affordable housing options throughout our state, and how do you plan on working to support families accessing safe and affordable homes?
Well, this is the #1 issue I hear about in terms of affordability in this district. Housing affordability has just dissipated. So many people are not able to stay in their homes. Rents have been jacked up. Seniors have had to leave their homes. New families are unable to afford a home. It is an absolute crisis across Arizona, especially in this district. So we know that we need to build more affordable housing, and that we are going to need government support to do that, and that we need also accountability for these programs. So we do need that financial support to developers to build more affordable housing, and that we need to have those restrictions to keep that housing affordable, so that that housing isn't just flipped by the developer just a little while later, or they only make a few units affordable and the rest of them are market rates that just people cannot afford. Only the upper echelon of people can afford, or we are attracting those private equity firms here into Arizona that are buying up the housing and catering to a wealthier population. We need homes for people who are here. So government programs that build more housing ensures that they are affordable. We also need programs that help to rehab and repair our housing. So a lot of the housing stock is not in good shape, and that makes, that takes out a lot of the housing stock that would otherwise be affordable. We also have to help people in terms of making sure that they have the knowledge and resources to fight for their rights as tenants, and to make sure that they are not wrongly evicted, and to make sure that they have the resources that they need to stay in their homes. During my time in the legislature, during the pandemic, I worked very hard on the issue of eviction prevention, making sure that both tenants and landlords had the resources that were needed to keep people housed. We know that housing is so critical to family stability, to making sure a family can be self-sufficient, to making sure that members of the family can hold a job, have an address so that they can vote, and making sure that kids are safe, going to school, and getting an education. So there's very important programs on the federal level that mirror programs that I supported on the state level, from low-income housing tax credits to programs that that help people stay in their homes. I would say that the current representative, Juan Ciscomani, voted just very recently, a couple months ago, for a very, very large cut to one of the most effective housing affordability programs that the federal government gives to state and local government. It's a program called the HOME program. It's a federal grant program that gives money to states. States give it to localities. In Tucson, it is one of the largest sources of federal funding for building affordable housing. So, this is not somebody who has lined up with helping us on the housing crisis.
Thank you so much for that answer, Kirsten. And thank goodness it's all like, sometimes you pray for longer terms, but the good thing is this was only 2 terms. One term, I'm sorry. And Juan Ciscomani hopefully will serve only 1 term, because he has done a lot of damage and has shown who he is as he served. I mean, on the housing crisis that we're experiencing, and him going into Congress and slashing budgets on how people can get a roof over their head is should be unconscionable. But let's go on to immigration. I know this is an issue that is on top of mind of many people here in Arizona. I have my Virgen de Guadalupe here. This is the green card Virgen that was gifted to me. And many of us have been working for years on the issue of comprehensive immigration reform. So immigration justice is a key issue for the members of Mi Familia Vota. So immigrant families and dreamers have become a strong part of Arizona's community and the fabric of our country and an economy. And many families have mixed status, with U.S. citizens married to undocumented immigrants who face significant barriers and the lack of clear path to legalizing their status. So the application process for a green card or a work visa is expensive, it's limited, and it could take decades. So how would you fix America's broken immigration system with an emphasis on keeping families together and fairness for all?
Well, that is very key. Talking about the importance of keeping families together. We need to have a working immigration system. And I think that one thing we can agree on, actually, I think, it's actually a pretty bipartisan agreement, I think, is that we have right now very much of a broken immigration system. And it has been an area where the extremes have taken over. And we have become, issues have been mixed up between issues of border security and immigration reform. We do need to address both, and I'm very convinced of that, because we are not going to be able to make progress in this issue without addressing both. And on the border issues, we know we have real issues of drug smuggling. We have real issues of human trafficking. We need to be combating the drug cartels and that are really so strong and hurting our communities. We need to do that so that we have the resources to process people who are coming to the border, who have the right to apply for asylum, to make sure that we have an orderly and quick system there to make sure that everyone who has an asylum claim is able to make that asylum claim. And those are the border issues. And that is why I would have supported, even though I didn't think it was, it had everything in it that by far it needed to, that bipartisan border deal, because it would have brought immigration judges, asylum officers to bring more order to the border, to make sure that people who are here to apply for asylum had the right and the ability to do so. On immigration, I mean, we are a nation of immigrants. That is our background. That is what makes us strong. And right now, we have a stranglehold in terms of legal pathways to citizenship and incredible backlogs to those who are caught in the system today. So we need to make sure that we have more legal pathways to citizenship. Let's start for those dreamers who have been here their whole lives, who know no other country than ours, who have been putting down roots. Let's make sure that they have the pathway to citizenship that they deserve. And let's work on making sure that others who have been caught in this system of backlogs, the spouses of citizens, the people who are already being sponsored by employers. Some of these people are in, years long waiting lines for getting their citizenship. And these are things where we can create a humane, fair, and I would say efficient immigration system, which provides legal pathways, expands those legal pathways. Certainly, we are way overdue at looking at our visa system and updating that system to make sure that we have people who are ready to come in, build our economy, from healthcare to transportation workers, and that they are able to apply and get that permission to work. So I think there is a ton that can be done. I think it's going to be difficult for us to make these reforms of our immigration system without addressing issues on the border that have been capturing a lot of the attention. But I do believe that we can do that in a bipartisan manner. Unfortunately, my opponent has shown he has no interest in bipartisan solution. He wants to keep the border a crisis, which I think is really preventing us from being able to move ahead. And he's going to kowtow to Trump, who wants to continue to make it a crisis. And we have tangible proof of that. That's what's happened so far.
Yeah, and it would be very dangerous we will make sure that we get Kamala Harris elected, but if there was a Trump presidency and Francisco Mani still in the U.S. House of Representatives, the agenda is mass deportation. So it's a real threat to family separation, and even more, it should be giving us more motivation to make sure that we get out the vote and knock on doors and leave no stone unturned. Let's move on to reproductive rights. And I know, like, I saw you fight directly at the state legislature for abortion access, and unapologetically. Sometimes even Democrats will be apologetic about fighting for abortion, but you were somebody who was unapologetic and stood up to the extremists on this issue. So as reproductive rights are under attack here and around the country, what steps will you take to protect access to reproductive health care, including abortion, and ensure that all individuals in Arizona can make their own choices regarding their reproductive health?
Well, women have to be able to make their own reproductive health care decisions with their family, with their doctor. These are personal decisions, and we need to restore this right and this freedom to women and their doctors and their families. And it has been, devastating for me as a woman, as a mom of a teenage daughter, to see what has been happening here in Arizona ever since Roe versus Wade was repealed, something that my opponent cheered, by the way. We almost had the 1864 criminal abortion ban go into effect. This was we barely missed this. I mean, this is what the far right has been pushing in terms of taking away these freedoms, the ability to control your health, your life from women. And this is the extreme. I mean, we are left now with the, still an abortion ban, 15 weeks without any exceptions for rape or incest. And of course, we know so many complications with respect to pregnancy can happen after that 15-week time period, and there is no way for women and their doctors to respond. So we need to restore these rights, and there's no reason that we should be leaving this to the states. Healthcare. This is a fundamental freedom that should be for all women across the country, and so I would be fighting in Congress to restore Roe versus Wade. Let's restore these rights that women had for the past 50 years. I don't believe that these are political decisions that politicians should be making. My opponent, he's a politician. He's not a doctor. He's not a woman. He should not be making these reproductive rights and healthcare decisions for women. So Congress can do this. I am very, very supportive of Proposition 139 here on the state level that will enshrine basically Roe versus Wade into our state constitution. That is really important. As I have gone around talking to voters, at the time we were collecting signatures, I was also collecting signatures for that initiative. But we also know that, God forbid, if we don't keep the presidency and, Trump and his allies try to push through a national abortion ban, that could preempt what we do on the state level. So we do need federal elected officials to be working to guarantee reproductive rights. And that's what I will do. And this is very, very caught up with just, reproductive health care. And we know that, reproductive health care has been more difficult for Latino women to access, and that it's been less available, worse outcomes. And so we really need to address that as well. So abortion access, leave these issues to women, private decisions, healthcare decisions, and also increase reproductive healthcare access.
Yeah, it's so important to be speaking about this issue as healthcare. And healthcare is the next question. Like, we know that seeing a doctor and getting a medical procedure, paying for needed medicines continue to be out of reach for so many seniors and families. And in Congress, what would you do to lower healthcare costs and expand healthcare access for all Arizonans?
Well, I don't know anybody who is happy with our healthcare system. It's expensive. It is a tangled mess. We know that so many people do not have the healthcare insurance coverage that they need, and that many of them qualify for, but there's just so much bureaucracy in terms of getting that coverage. We also know that we're dealing with shortages in terms of nursing shortages and healthcare professionals in our rural areas. Much of this district is actually rural areas, and I hear all the time about the lack of access to primary care doctors as well as specialists. So all of these need to be addressed. I know firsthand, especially what seniors face, as somebody who has an 88-year-old father who is dependent upon Medicare for his services. And in the Arizona legislature, it was a top priority for me, fighting against things like, junk healthcare plans that they were trying to get the state to support, that would have been very iffy about whether or not it covered pre-existing conditions. Being an advocate for telemedicine. I think people should be able to see their doctor in person, but if it's not possible and people are far away, we need to make sure that telemedicine is an option for people. We need coverage. We need health coverage for people. The Affordable Care Act has been monumental. We have to make sure it is not repealed, that we keep it. I'm also in favor of the public option. This would make sure that people could actually basically buy into Medicare coverage, even if they do not otherwise qualify. They're not as old enough for it. This is a way of looking at, really how we can expand healthcare coverage and making sure that we continue the subsidies that are available under the ACA so people are able to be covered. Medicare, so important, especially the authority of Medicare to negotiate the price of prescription drugs, something that was passed by the Democrats in the Inflation Reduction Act and is going to save seniors so much money starting next year, and also the federal government, literally billions of dollars. We should expand the number of drugs that are subject to that, because it is outrageous as I go and talk to seniors and find out that many of them are foregoing rent, foregoing food, trips, gasoline, just to be able to pay for their prescription drugs. So we need to make sure that we keep the ACA strong. We need to expand the authority of Medicare to negotiate the price of prescription drugs. We need to do what we can to get rid of the bureaucracy and the problems in our current healthcare system. One way is to transition to the public option, make that available, and we need to make sure that medical care is available in our rural areas.
Great, thank you so much. And we're talking about a lot of great policy, and but in order to get this policy moving forward, we need to make sure that everybody has access to the ballot box and that our democracy is healthy. And we've seen so many attacks at a state level, at our state legislature. Obviously, we're seeing it on our ballot with all these propositions that will create more barriers to our democracy here in Arizona. So Congress will have a key role in making sure that we protect voter rights and have access to the ballot box. So could you share your vision and how to ensure that we combat voter suppression and misinformation on campaigns too? I think it goes together.
Yes, and I'm a veteran of these battles from the Arizona legislature, as you are as well. It was quite incredible to serve in the Arizona legislature and to be battling the election deniers after 2020 and the various schemes that many people in the Arizona legislature were trying to, from the Republican Party, were trying to push through to suppress the vote and to feed the idea that the 2020 election was a fraud, as we know that it was not. So making sure that we guarantee the right to vote and access to the ballot could not be more important. We need to pass that, John Lewis Voting Rights Act, which will restore parts of the Voting Rights Act that were invalidated by the Supreme Court, and make sure that people are not discriminated against in terms of exercising their voting rights. And the Freedom to Vote Act is another one that would also make sure that we guarantee voting access, that we make it easy to vote, as opposed to putting barriers in the way. It is something that is near and dear to my heart. We absolutely have a lot of issues, not just in guaranteeing access to the ballot box, but also making sure that the people that are in the arena, people that are running for office, are not just representing, corporate interests, that their campaigns are not. I do not accept any corporate PAC money. The need to reform our campaign finance laws is also very, very high on my agenda. That's going to be a tough thing to get done, but we also know we have to do that as well, so that we make sure that the people that we elect are truly representing the people that they represent, and not corporate interests and money. So organizations like Mi Familia Vota is, you all are just absolutely fundamental to the advocacy and getting, helping us once we are elected leaders, to getting these pieces of legislation that will guarantee the vote and access, across the finish line. So that there aren't barriers. There aren't barriers of language. There aren't barriers in terms of where people live. There aren't barriers in terms of age, and certainly not race or, or their or race. Yeah.
We need a healthy democracy for sure. And all those policies I think are key to make sure that we have a transparent government and that we have good access and are able to participate. So thank you so much for answering all of these questions, spending this evening with us, with Mi Familia Vota, their members, and telling us more about your approach on the issues that matter most to the voters and the voters of Congressional District 6. And I'm going to pass it over to Monica, because the next step after you get to meet amazing candidates is to make sure that you vote. So Monica, please take it away and tell us how to vote.
You bet. And Kirsten, thank you. That was just fantastic. And Raquel as well. Thank you so much for moderating this question. We are so appreciative. I just want to say that each one of us that has the right to vote, we have so much power in our hands. Each vote, every vote matters. At Arizona.vote, you can check your voter registration, make sure that it's up to date. You can find your nearest polling place. You can find a ballot box. If you get your ballot by mail, make sure you fill it out and put it in the mail by October 29th. If you plan to vote in person, that's fine too. You can vote early up until the Friday before Election Day, or you can vote anytime between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. on Election Day at a polling place. And again, you can find all of that information at Arizona.vote. And remember, it's going to be a long ballot this year, but everything on the ballot matters. Sometimes local stuff has just as much of an impact as federal, right? We need all of us who have a vote, who have a voice in this democracy, to start at the top and work our way all the way down the bottom. If you have any questions about how to make your voice heard in this election, please call us with any questions or challenges at 1-833-VOTAMOS. 1-833-VOTAMOS. 1833-VOTAMOS. Thank you. And now I'm going to pass it back to you, Raquel.
Fantastic. Thank you, Monica. And just to close us off here really quickly, we want to make sure that everybody who's watching us, either here in our Zoom or on our Facebook Live, you can get involved. We need you to get involved and make a difference. We all know Arizona is a swing state for president, for Congress, and of course, for these propositions that are going to be on the ballot. I will tell you from my personal experience coming out of a primary where my race was decided by 39 votes. 39 votes made the difference between winning or losing. I was on the losing end, But for Attorney General Chris Mays, she was on the winning end by 280 votes. And President Biden delivered Arizona, and we delivered Arizona for President Biden by a little bit over than 10,000 votes. This election is going to be that tight. And we all saw what happened last election as well, and with this congressional district. So find a way to volunteer if you'd like to volunteer for Kirsten Engel, for any candidate that you support, for Mi Familia Vota. Don't wait for the organizations or campaign to call you. Get involved, because we only have 3 weeks left and it could be a game changer. So I know, Kirsten, you've already gone over your policies position and how would you approach these positions in Congress. And I would like to give it back to you and see if you have any final remarks and close us off for the evening.
Well, thank you so much. Really great to have this conversation tonight. And again, you know, as Raquel has said, you know, we have just 3 more weeks, and we are a battleground district here in a battleground state. And Southern Arizona could, you know, turn out here, votes here could make the difference in holding the presidency, holding the Senate, flipping the US House, and also flipping the Arizona legislature. So it couldn't be more important. As I have said, you know, under our Constitution, we have the right to elect our representatives every 2 years in the US House. And that is a awesome responsibility. And it also showed kind of the smartness and the intelligence of the framers of the Constitution, that, you know, you don't have to put up with somebody you don't want for more than 2 years. You know, you can vote for change. And that's what I'm asking for Congressional District 6. I think we have seen a very dysfunctional Congress, and we've seen the current incumbent just feeding that dysfunction, feeding that extremism that is making this a Congress that isn't working for the people. So I would like to get in there, you know, use the skills and my passion, my empathy, and my know-how to work for this community, from education to clean air, clean water, addressing the climate crisis, you know, bringing down costs, you know, bringing down the high utility bills that we're paying right now, when we could be switching to clean energy, cleaning the air, bringing down costs, you know, working to combat corporate price gouging, helping people with affordable housing. Those are the issues that I want to work on. And thank you so much for those of you who are in this district. Thank you for considering voting for me. And those of you who may not, thank you for what you are doing in terms of access to voting and political participation, especially for the Latino community. It's so important.
Excelente. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful evening. I hope that you can sleep a few hours, Kirsten. I know it's hard. And all the love to your family too, because it's a huge sacrifice for your family. And so please, all our best to them. And thank you for running. All right. So buenas noches todos y que estén muy bien. Gracias por asistir.